Hey everyone, Shiab is here, back with another exciting video for you. In my last video, we built a basic small business network on Azure. And today we are going to take it a step further by creating our very own domain controller. A domain controller is the heart of a Windows network, managing users, controlling security policies, and much more. It's a critical component for any business network, and I'm excited to guide you through the entire process. So let's get started first. Okay, let's go ahead and create our first virtual machine. In the portal Azure main page, you can see virtual machine service. If you can't find it here, you can always type in the search bar virtual and you will see the service. Click that virtual machine service. You can see under virtual machine folder, you don't see any virtual machines because this is a brand new organization. We don't have any virtual machines. We create only business network. Now next is create a virtual machine. You can see there's three options. I'm going to choose the first options. I'm going to create a separate video for these two options in the future video. For this demonstration purposes, we need only the first option. Now once you create a virtual machine, you will get a few options. First one is the basic. Under basic, we're going to fill some information. The subscription, choose the subscription you have. In the resources group, you can create a new one, or if you have already one, you can choose. Because I create for the servers a separate resources group, I'm going to choose that. Under virtual machine name, you can choose the name because this is our first domain controller. I'm going to say this is 01. In the region, remember that some region don't have some options like size, right? So if I'm showing you, if you use West US through region, if you see all sizes, you don't get it. So make sure whatever the region you choose, if you don't see anything, probably you need to change the region. And also it depends where you want to locate your virtual machine. Because I'm in West US, I'm going to choose the West US 2 because 3 doesn't have the some of the VMs I want. Now region, I use West US 2 and availability zone. There's a 4 options: no infrastructure, availability zone, virtual machine scale set, availability set. So these two I'm going to talk about my future videos, how to create machine for these. For this demonstration, for my domain controller, I need only availability zone. Physically separate your resources within Azure region. Because I'm choosing this, I'm planning to create another domain controller because you need to have few domain controllers for organization for redundancy purposes. Now in here, availability zone section, there's a 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to choose zone 1. If you create a DC 2, probably you choose zone 2 and 3, zone 3, like that. There's a redundancy. If zone 1 goes down, zone 2 is available. Or zone 2 goes down and 1 also gone down, zone 3 is availability. Now let's go to the security type. When you create a VM in Azure, you have an important choice to make right off the bat: the security type. So you will see two options: standard and trusted launch. Standard is the basic security setting. It's fine for some VMs, but our domain controller deserves the VIP treatment. Now, trusted launch is where the magic happens. It brings trio of powerful security features to protect your VM from the ground up. You can see under this trusted launch, there's an option configure security features. So once you click that, you see another 3 options. Let's talk about these 3 options. First, we have a secure boot. It's like a bouncer at a club, only letting in software that's on the approved guest list. This stops bad actors from sneaking in during the startup. The next is VTPM, Virtual Trusted Platform Module. This is like a secure vault for your VMs, keys and secrets. It helps verify that nobody is tampered with your system. Finally, integrity monitoring is the watchdog that never sleeps. It constantly checks your VM for suspicious changes and alerts you if anything fishy. Now, you might be thinking, why all this fuss for domain controller, right? Well, your domain controller is the heart of your network. It stores password, control access, and keeps your digital kingdom running smoothly. Protecting is not an option, it's necessary. I highly recommend. So I'm going to choose integrity monitoring tool. So 3 of these and click OK. Now let's go ahead and choose our size. I'm going to keep default run with Azure Spot Discount because I don't have it. So under size, see all size. You can click in here. I'm going to choose the specific one for my domain controller. If you go here, D series version 2, and I'm going to choose DS version 2, DS2 version 2 VM size for this task. So when selecting a VM for a domain controller, it's crucial to find a balance between performance and cost. The standard DS2 version 2 offers 2 virtual CPUs, 7 GB of RAM, and 14 GB of temporary SSD storage. So this configuration provides the right amount of power and temporary memory to handle authentication and directory service workloads for domain controller efficiency. For small to medium-sized business network, this VM size is ideal because it delivers the reliable performance without breaking the bank. So if you have the budget, you always check your monthly cost. So it also supports premium SSDs, ensuring fast and dependable disk performance, which is vital for the smooth operation of our domain controller. Additionally, if your needs grow in the future, the D series VMs are easily scalable, allowing you to upgrade to larger size without major changes to our setup. So I'm going to choose, if you click here, you can see it's highlighted, and I'm going to select yes. Okay, next we going to keep it default, enable hibernation. We're not going to check mark this because we don't need the enable hibernation. Also, it's not supported for this size. If you want enable hibernation, probably you need to choose a different size. Now the administrator account, normally we need to already have in our file, so we can use our username password to log into our VM. So this is a very crucial that you need to have username password create to this domain controller so we can log in. Next, inbound and port rules. It's important to discuss inbound port rules for our VM. During the initial setup, we need to allow remote desktop protocol 3389 to access and configure our VM. To do this, we'll enable RDP 3389 in the inbound port rule section during the VM creation process. This will allow us to connect our VM using remote desktop and get things up and running. However, I highly recommend that once our initial setup is complete, we disable direct RDP access port on 3389. Leaving RDP open to the internet can expose our VM to potential security threats such as brute force attacks. Instead, it's a best practice to use Azure Bastion, a managed service that provides secure and seamless RDP and SSH connectivity to your VMs directly through Azure portal without need to expose public IP address. So we'll start by allowing RDP 3389 to get things going, but for long-term security, I highly recommend switching to Azure Bastion for remote access. Let's click next for the disk section. Okay, under disk, I'm going to choose OS disk type standard. That's the only option I'm going to change. You can see the local redundant storage data is replicated with a single data center. I'm not going to use that. I'm going to use zone redundant storage data is replicated to 3 zones, and I'm going to choose the standard one. Now, if you go to the basic, you can see I already choose availability zone. There's a 3 zones, so this is the redundant, right? If you choose no infrastructure redundancy required, then under disk you can select the local redundant storage data is replicated within a single storage. You can choose premium or standard. From here I choose the standard under replicated 3 zones. Now this type of disk offers a good balance between performance and cost. Managed disk, so you can see the managed disks are reliable and handle storage management tasks such as scalability and availability, making them a convenient choice. However, if you anticipate higher workloads or need a faster disk performance, you can consider upgrading to premium SSDs, which offer lower latency and higher throughput for our current setup. The default standard should work perfectly fine, providing the necessary performance for our domain controller without incurring additional cost. That's all. Other than everything, I'm going to keep it default. I'm not going to change anything. And now let's go to the next one, next sections in networking. Now let's take a look at the network section during our VM creation process. This section is crucial as it determines how your VM is connected to your existing network and the internet. First, you will see virtual network drop down. Here we'll select the virtual network we created my previous video, my small biz net. My previous video was how to create a small business network in Azure. If you haven't seen this video yet, please check it out to understand how to set up a robust network foundation for your business. Next, under subnet, you'll choose the subnet within our virtual network where you want to place your VM. The subnets allow you to segment your network, enhancing the security and performance. So I'm going to choose the backend subnet. Now next one is public IP. This is the next option. You can choose to create a new public IP address or use existing one. This public IP will allow external access to your VM, but remember, we'll use it temporarily for RDP access and later switch to more secure method with Azure Bayesian. Next option is public IP. You can choose to create a new public IP address or use existing one. This public IP will allow external access to your VM, but remember, we'll use it temporarily for RDP access and later switch to more secure method for Azure Bayesian. So if you want to create a new one, just click create new and you will get a create a public IP address form in here. Now you can create a new name, or if you have one, you can update. So now I already have one, so I'm going to update this. So under the public IP selection, you'll see routing preferences with the 2 choices of Microsoft Network and Internet. If you click this one, actually you don't need to click, hover over your mouse, you will get some information. That means it's telling you to, once you select it, you cannot revert it back. So make sure you understand these 2 methods and choose wisely. Now if you choose Microsoft Network, these options route your traffic through the Microsoft Global Network, which is designed for high performance and reliability. It's typically faster and more secure since it leverages Microsoft's extensive global infrastructure. This is the recommended choice for the most scenarios, especially for business critical applications like our domain controller. Internet, this option routes your traffic over the public internet, which might be less reliable and slower compared to the Microsoft network. It's generally used for scenarios where cost is a significant factor and the highest performance and security are not as critical. For our domain control, I highly recommend selecting Microsoft Network to ensure the best performance and security. Next, you will see the availability zone options, which includes like zone redundant and specific zones like zone 1 or 2. So zone redundant, this option distributes your VM across multiple availability zones within the same region. It provides high availability and resilience against zone failures. This is ideal for critical workloads where uptime and reliability are paramount. The zone 1, 2, or 3, these options allow you to replace your VMs per specific availability zone. This can be useful if you have specific requirement for proximity of or want to architect your application to have VMs in different zones for redundancy. For our domain controller, selecting zone redundancy ensure that our VM benefits from high availability and resilience, protecting against potential zone failures. So I'm going to choose OK. For NIC, Network Security Group, NSG, you have option to create basic, advanced, NSG. NSGs help manage inbound and outbound traffic rules. For our domain controller, a basic NSG is sufficient to start with, but you can always refine these rules later based on your security needs. You can see I allow my public inbound ports RTP3389 and I check the delete public IP and NIC when VM is deleted. And you can see enable accelerated networking. This can be enabled for better network performance. This option is typically beneficial for high throughput scenarios, but it's not critical for our domain controller setup. Finally, there's a load balancing. If you're setting up a multiple VMs for high availability and scalability, you might want to configure load balancing. However, for our single domain controller setup, we can leave these options unconfigured. So I'm going to say none. And my next future videos, I'm going to use this option to do some load balancing projects. Let's go click next to the next section. It's management. Now let's talk about the under management. What are the settings we need to choose? So first of all, identity. Identity allows you to enable system assign manage identity for your VM. This provides the VM with identity in Azure Active Directory, we call Azure AD, allowing it to securely access other Azure resources without the need for credentials. In the future projects, you might use this feature to allow your domain controller to interact securely with the other Azure services such as Azure Key Vault, Azure Storage, or other Azure VMs. This can enhance security and simplify access management. The next one is Microsoft Entra ID. Microsoft Entra ID integrates your VM with Azure Active Directory. This is useful for managing users and their access to Azure resources. In the future project, you might use Azure AD to manage user identities, roles, and access to various applications and services within your Azure environment. So, for example, you can use Azure AD to enforce multi-factor authentication, MFA, manage group policies, and provide single sign-on SSO capabilities for your users. For now, if you prefer to keep this thing simple, you can keep default settings for identity and Microsoft Entra ID. Auto shutdown, you can auto shutdown, you can enable backup, you can enable enable disaster recovery, gives all updates, reboot settings. So everything you can change for your requirement. I'm going to keep it default everything, and I'm going to move for next monitoring section. Now under monitoring, you can see alerts. This allows you to create rules that trigger notification based on performance and health metrics for your VM. Diagnostic provides detailed metrics and logs from your VM monitoring and troubleshooting purposes. So you can see it's enable with managed storage account, recommend. And after that we have enable OS diagnostic. This collects detailed metrics and logs from the operating system running inside the VM. And after that we have a health monitoring, provides an overview of the VM status and health metrics. I'm going to keep this default, and in my next future videos I'm going to do all this and make it perfect for like creating alerts, creating enable OS health. I'm going to show you everything. So let's keep this default and let's proceed further with the advanced. The next step is advanced tab. Now under advanced, you can see extensions. So extensions are small applications that provides post deployment configuration and automation tasks on Azure VMs. Example include antivirus, monitoring agents, and configuration method tools. So you can use those stuff. And next one, you can say VM applications. So VM applications allow you to deploy application directly onto your VM from Azure Marketplace, or custom application from your Azure DevOps or GitHub repositories. And you can see you can select from here, and after that we can see custom data. So custom data allows you to pass user data or script to VM during provisioning process. This can be used to automate initial configuration tasks. Next, you can see user data allows you to provide additional data or script that will be executed when the VM start. After that, we can see performance NVMe offers high performance NVMe storage for the VM. And host group, this allows you to specify a host group for your VM, providing dedicated physical host for your VMs. And we can see capacity reservations ensure that capacity is reserved for your VMs in a specific Azure region or availability zone. And the last one is proximity placement group. Proximity placement group ensures that your VM is placed close to other specific VMs for low latency communication. Now I'm going to keep everything default. I didn't select anything, so I'm going to keep this everything's default because I don't need to do anything on this section. Normally in the future we're going to use extensions but not from here. We're going to use a group and we're going to push like that. So we're not going to do anything from individual VM unless you have a specific individual VM you want to create extensions. Now let's go ahead and click next. For the tags, you can create any tags you want. Like example, I'm going to create environment. I'm going to say this is production, and this is my tag. So I'm going to create next review and create section, and here you can see the price for this machine, subscription credits apply. This is the hourly charge for this VM, and you can see you will get a red error. You have RDP ports open to the internet. This is only recommended for testing, but this is purposely I'm going to open because I want to install all the configuration stuff once I done with the VM. But I'm going to show you how to disable this port and enable via Bayesian more secure method, and everything looks perfect. I'm going to go ahead and create the VM. It takes few minutes. It will be very fast. So you can see deployment in progress. Once the deployment in progress, you can open the VM and you can update, run Windows Update and everything, and you can do whatever that you want to do for the domain controller. Now I'm going to promote this VM to a domain control on my next video. You can see deployment is complete, successful, green checkbox. The first one, deployment name. This is the unique name assigned to your deployment. It includes details like the type of VM and timestamp indicating when the deployment was initiated. Subscription, this indicates the Azure subscription used for the deployment. In this case, it's a free trial subscription. Resources group, the resources group where all the necessary resources associated with the VM are organized. Resources group helps you to manage and organize related Azure resources. And here you can see start time, a unique ID, the extract date and time when the deployment started. Correlation ID, a unique identifier for this specific deployment operation. This can be useful for support and troubleshooting purposes. And after that, we can see deployment details. Under that, we can see this one. This indicates that the VM extension for the guest attestation, a security feature, was successfully deployed. And after that, we can see DC01. This shows that the virtual machine name DC01 was successfully created. The next one is this indicates that the network interface for the VM name DC01361-_Z1 was successfully created. The network interface connected to the VM network. And after that, DC01-NSG. This shows the network security group NSG name DC1. NSG was successfully created. NSGs define the inbound and outbound traffic rules for the VM. The last one is this indicates that the public IP address for the VM name DC01-IP was successfully created. The public IP address allows the VM to be accessible from the internet. So everything is green check mark. That's been good. So in summary, our deployment was successful and we can see that all the necessary components for our VM are in place, including the virtual machine itself, network interface, network security group, and public IP addresses. Each resource has been created and it's ready to use. Next, we'll proceed with the configuring and promoting our VM to fully functional domain controller. Stay tuned for the next video where we dive into these steps. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the IT Samurai Teacher channel for more tech tutorials. See you in my next video.